Hello everyone, hello. Welcome to Naledi's World. I am Naledi. Thank you so much. Why am I repeating things so much? Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I am Naledi and this is my world. Today we are continuing with the cognitive behavioral therapy sessions. I really apologize that it's been so long since I last posted one, but I'm back now and we are continuing. So let's just jump right into it. So if you've been watching the sessions, then you'll remember that in the first one I mentioned thinking traps, and we are going to be going back to that whole concept and just diving a bit into it. Neuroscientists have compared our brains to a computer, and you know how on a computer you can set up shortcuts. You can do the same in your brain. So when you set up these mental shortcuts, it helps you sort information that you see or receive as either important or not really relevant, and it just helps you with just sorting out all the information that you get, right? And it can help you save time, it can help you save money, it can save your life. Like for example, if you're walking in an area in like a forest and you see something that looks like a snake, you're going to immediately move away from that area, like to a place of safety, because you just have that quick connection to it, right? So mental shortcuts, when they are helpful, they're called, guys, this word heuristics, if I hope I pronounce that right. They're called heuristics. But if a mental shortcut is harmful or problematic or whatever, then we call it a thinking trap, right? And they are also called, the thinking traps are also called cognitive distortions, because it is when you fail to capture what is happening in reality. You're getting like a distorted view of what is actually happening. So now there are different, as I'd mentioned that other time, there are different thinking traps, different categories for thinking traps that one can fall into, and I'm just going to list them for you and give them like a young description. Just think about if you have ever experienced something like this, you know. So the first one is personalization, where you blame yourself entirely for something that happened, a situation, even if it's not your fault. Like say if you have to meet a friend for lunch and then that friend is late and you think, oh my gosh, I should have called them to check if we're still sitting, if the time is still the same, or you know, you just make personalize whatever is happening. Number two is catastrophizing, which is thinking the worst, exaggerating how bad a situation is, or assuming the worst possible outcome. I think everyone has probably had a situation where they were thinking like this. And then minimizing is downplaying the importance of something, or underestimating the significance of it. Another one is filtering, where you select, you only remember certain parts of a memory, or you focus on certain negative events and just forget about the positive part. The other one is mind reading, which is when you assume you know what others are thinking or they will think without even asking them. Another one is fortune telling, which is just predicting how something is going to go without any evidence that supports what you are thinking. Judging yourself or others, is making a conclusion about the worth of something or someone without actually observing them. You know what I mean? So prejudice, basically, you see something and you immediately think a certain way about it without observing it or interacting with it. So yeah, those are the thinking traps. I'm pretty sure we have all found ourselves in a situation where we were is stuck in those thinking traps. For example, with the fortune telling, where there's nothing that says that something bad is going to happen, or a certain event is going to go badly. There is no evidence for that, but you are just really convinced, you know. So in those situations where you find yourself going down the spiral, it's very important to be aware that this is what's happening, as I always preach awareness. And these are the steps that you can just follow to get yourself out of it. Number one, obviously pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings, being aware, you know, just being aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling in moments, and then identifying the activating event, whatever triggers, so that for next time, if something like that is going to happen, then you can just put in kind of preventative measures, I guess. Recognize the cognitive distortion. Obviously this requires you to be in the moment, to realize that, oh my gosh, like what I'm thinking isn't really it, you know. And also you can use this for in a situation that's past, where you think, okay, I was really hurt or angry or whatever when this happened. Is it possible that a cognitive distortion was what was influencing my behavior or my reaction? Then once you have identified the distortion, you now know what the trigger was, you know what you felt and all of those things, it's important to challenge that distorted thought with cognitive reframing, which we did, I think, in the previous episode in the previous video. So first you evaluate the evidence that your thought or your feeling is true by asking, is there something what evidence is there that supports what I'm thinking? What evidence is there that is against my conclusion or what I'm thinking? And then you consider if there are different ways of thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about. So say about that an event is going to go really badly. Is there another way of thinking about it? Like if you guys know I suck at examples on the spot, but yeah, just is there an alternative way of thinking about this whole situation? And then, but most importantly, you need to consider whether what you are thinking, your thought, is a fact or an opinion. Because sometimes we confuse what we are actually seeing with what our brain is perceiving, which is how your brain is interpreting what it's seeing, with what is in reality, what it actually is. You know, for example, if you know these pictures where it's, I don't know how to explain it, but just your perception, what the information that you're receiving, and how your brain is interpreting the whole thing might not be the reality, just based on where you're looking from. You know, if you just switch how your perspective, then you'll be able to see the whole picture and realize what actually is there in reality. Right. So the second topic, I guess, for today's session is worry and rumination. These two are patterns of thinking that contribute to feelings of anxiety and sadness. So if you understand how they work, then it will be easier for you to just kick them to the side and get out of that funk. So worrying is thinking about a future event and thinking that something bad or dangerous is going to happen and you won't be able to deal with it. But worrying is a part of life. It's an inevitable part of life. But there's a good side and a bad side of worrying. If worrying leads to you thinking about a solution for whatever problem you're thinking about, or problem you are expecting, then it's a good thing, you know, because then you are solving that problem. But sometimes we get caught in worry that is unhelpful, where you just worrying and worrying and worrying and not thinking about how can I solve it, how can I fix it. You're just stuck in the worry, right? And then rumination is thinking excessively about something that has already happened. Say something happened and you're embarrassed, or you felt sad or hurt or whatever, and you just keep thinking about that thing that happened. Typically it happens in situations where a person experiences personal loss, or personal failure, because maybe like you can't get over what happened and you just keep thinking about it, and it often leads to feelings of sadness, guilt, and it's associated with feelings of regret, where you think, I should have done this, I made a mistake, or I was humiliated, and and you just keep going through it over and over again. So thinking traps that, okay, what you need to understand is rumination is driven by the thoughts that you have. So the thinking traps that drive rumination include personalizing a situation, and then just taking complete responsibility. Like if maybe you drove over a cat and you just like, I drove over that cat, I shouldn't have done that, I was dumb or whatever, and not realizing that the cat crossed the road without looking if there's a car coming. Yeah, I know that doesn't, but you get what I mean, Also overestimating the significance of whatever it is that happened. Maybe that what happened isn't really that big of a deal, but if you make it a very big deal, then you're going to keep thinking about it, and also filtering out some of the details of what happened. Like say with that cat, maybe someone threw it onto the road and you didn't have time to stop, but now you keep thinking about the fact that you just chased the cat. So filtering out certain parts of what actually happened also drives the rumination, and it becomes especially very problematic when it becomes the thoughts become obsessive, and you just can't stop thinking about what happened or what is going to happen, because then they lead to intense feeling of just sadness, regret, guilt, which are all negative feelings that we don't really want to be experiencing all the time. So the strategies to overcome rumination and unhelpful worrying, first you need to obviously identify when you are in that situation where you're just thinking about something a lot, or worrying about whatever it is a lot. Obviously the trigger, it's always important to identify your triggers, and also in this case identify what behavior that came, what was the behavioral consequence of you being in that thinking trap and just going with it. And also very importantly, I feel, is identifying which thinking trap or which thoughts are pushing, are maintaining your worrying or rumination. Like with the cat, it's specifically the fact that I bumped into the cat. I'm the one who was driving the car. I bumped into the cat. That's the personalization thinking trap. So some approaches that you can use when you are in the middle of rumination and worrying, and you can see, oh my gosh, no, this is becoming out of control, and I just feel very, very sad. I'm just experiencing very negative emotions because I'm thinking about something or worrying about something. One thing you can do is postpone the worrying. I think this is especially with worrying about something that's going to happen in the future. Just say, I don't have to think about this now, I'll think about this when I'm feeling better, or I'll think about this after something. Just trying to postpone that worrying. I hope that makes sense. Then the other one is making a plan, because when you're worrying about something, you are anticipating a problem, anticipating something going wrong. So now come up with a plan for, okay, if this does happen, then this is what I'll do, this is what I'll do. Ask yourself, what can you do about the situation that you are thinking about? What can you do about it now? And what can you do about it in the future? And who can help you to come up with ways to solve this situation. Very importantly, I believe, is also reaching out to someone that, listen, bro, like I've been having so many thoughts about 1, 2, 3, and always go to someone who you know will support you and will help you through whatever it is you're feeling. And also distracting yourself is a good thing, is a good approach. That's what I always try to do when I feel like I'm worrying a lot, like especially about next year, because I'll be in a totally different place. I sometimes just find myself thinking, a lot about it, and then I just, number one, I do say, Naledi, you thinking about that now is not going to help or change anything, so just relax, and then I'll just do something else. And it was actually when I was preparing for this session that I realized that I really am a person who remunerates a lot. Like a lot, like a lot. I'm always thinking about situations that probably the people who were a part of whatever was happening won't even remember. But I find myself sitting and thinking, oh my gosh, I should have done this, I could have said this, and it's things that don't even matter anymore. But there are times where I just find myself sitting and thinking about it, and now I'm learning all of these new ways for me to overcome that, and just not have it have such a hold on, because it's time consuming. Sitting and worrying about something is time consuming, because that's time that you could have used doing something else and being productive, right? So the other thing that you can do is decatastrophizing what you're thinking, right? So because the thinking traps or cognitive distortions, they change how you perceive the world. They basically make everything look and seem the worst possible way. So by decatastrophizing it, you're bringing yourself right back to reality. So what you would do when decatastrophizing, you would sit down and think, okay, this is what I'm worried about. I'm worried about going to Worcester, right? For me, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is that I hate it there, I make no friends, I just find it difficult to adapt. Best case, so that was the worst case scenario. Then the most likely scenario is I'll make new friends, I'll enjoy the new working environment, I'll love waking up to a new view, because there are nice mountains over there on that side. It'll just be a new challenge, and I'll learn a lot about myself. So then next question is, what are the chances that the worst case scenario will happen, and what are the chances that the most likely scenario will happen? And if it happens, if the most likely scenario happens, will I be okay? If the worst case scenario happens, will I still be okay? And now it's just coming up with a contingency plan. Oh yes, that's what I wanted to say. Like, in case this happens, then you come up with a plan. And I think having a plan for something that you're worrying about makes you feel more in control, and then you feel like you don't have to worry about something, because you know that I have a plan for me personally. That's how I feel. That's how it works with me. If I have a plan for something that I'm worried about, then it makes me feel better, it makes me feel in control, and I'm not as anxious anymore. Right, so yes, that is our session for today. So basically, if you find yourself in a thinking trap, and you see that this trap is leading to excessive worrying and rumination, first thing you do is you stop and you reflect. You think, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Why am I feeling this way? Find out what the trigger is. Identify what thinking trap, what is that thought that's been in my head that's been pushing this whole trap. What's that little voice that's been aggravating this whole situation, right? And then you make a plan. Identify if there is anything you can do about the situation right now or in the future. What actions do you need to take? Who can help with what you're thinking about, the plan that you're coming with, or someone you can talk to right now to just help you feel better. And also don't forget just postponing the worrying. Like right now I'm just thinking I'll worry about next year. Yeah. And then always distract yourself, because then you won't be thinking about whatever it is. For me, what also really helps is praying. Whenever I feel like something is worrying me a lot and I just don't know how it's going to work out or whatever, I literally just pray. And obviously, as I always say, my journal, and it feels like a heavy load is off me, because whatever I was thinking, all of those thoughts were just weighing me down, and then I just take them out, I put them into my diary, or I take them out and I put them onto God, and then I just feel better, I just feel lighter. So yeah, just find what works for you, and don't hold around your feelings, your worries, your thoughts. Just find a way to express it and let it out. Yeah, and make sure that the circle you have around you is one that will support you and understands you, and will help you when you're in those situations where you feel like you're spiraling out and your thoughts are just taking over. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that was informative. I hope it helps you. If you enjoyed it, please click like and then subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.